Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. We are back in our favorite countryside while mom is recovering bit by bit from her not COVID, but she wasn't feeling well, and this is just to learn use masks. I know this is gonna sound unpopular. It's gonna sound weird, but masks will help you out. Avoid catching, for those of you who travel a lot. I'm sorry, the mic is just... Mic was giving us problems. For those of you who travel a lot, you're gonna feel better if you just wear an FFP2 mask. That's the way it is. I know I don't make the rules. Mom hates it, but it is what it is. So, in today's podcast, a bit of a retrospective in the life of kids, even in life of young adults, and in how we were brought up thinking about problems. That is probably a flawed way of thinking about them. Vergola! Dai! Yaman, 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 yaman. Dai, 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 dai. And this is the way. So, if you think about how, just a question. You were first encountering the concept of having a problem in your life. How did it look like? How did it feel? How did you feel? Do you remember which context you had to deal with your first problem? Do you know how and when and what you first categorized as a problem in the first place? Now, you might not remember the exact situation, but I'm going to leave you a couple of seconds to, remember and make up your mind. I will help you out thinking about mine and recalling mine. So I guess that one of the first times that I, as mom, encountered a problem was probably in kindergarten, where mom would have needed to pick. So mom was running, of course, the group of, the gang somehow of people in her class, and they would just pretend to make war with other classes, and they were the greens, and she remembers quite vividly that the enemies were the blues, and she remembers perfectly who was the guy running the blues. By the way, Samuel, if you ever listened to this, hello. And the first problem that probably she had needed to encounter was, okay, I am gonna leave kindergarten at 6, because that's when you do it in Italy, after 3 years, and you will need to elect a new leader. And the new elected leader was actually, curiously enough, the brother of one of the people that went on to become one of mom's best friend, Valentina. The guy was 2 years younger, so basically was just starting, and he would have 2 years actually, of dominion in the kindergarten gangs, and and that was a problem. Like, how do you elect one? How do you make sure the thing keeps on going? And truth is, mom hasn't got any idea if the thing has kept going, but it is what it is. Bigger problems then came probably with elementary schools, where you would need to get along with the people, with so many people, and again, be able to, stay in a class where the only thing there is not just play. It is, actually doing shit, like studying, like reading, like writing, like school. And so how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the things that you don't like? How do you deal with the fact that you start to have deadlines? How do you deal with that? And then 5th year comes, and you have the exam, and you need to pass the exam, and you're like, oh my god, but when I'm done with the exam, I'm gonna be free. Yeah. How about middle school? 3rd year, you're gonna have another exam, and when you finish that exam, well, you're gonna be free. And middle school, you started, you start experimenting heartbreaks. And, well, if the guy or the girl wants me, then I will be happy. No. Answer is no. There are always going to be other heartbreaks, other problems, other things. And so you then go to high school. And in high school, like, you start becoming an adult. You start feeling adult problems. Difficult shit to be studying. Difficult relationships. Internet comes along because that's when mom's generation got onto internet, basically. Between middle and high school. Like lots of other shit. And guess what? You have an exam on the 5th year, and you're gonna be like, okay, when I'm done with the exam, it's called esame di maturità in Italian, which is it's a telling name because it's actually maturity exam. So it expects you to be mature. Like, it sets a deadline on maturity. Between June and July of your 19th year, where then you can just go and live into the world. Of course, this is fake. And so this is just to say, starting from one problem and just ranging back to 13 years ago, amore, benedetto dai. Mamu have just had different problems. And truth is, somebody would tell you, exams are never over. Yeah, exams are never over, and you're probably never going to open an algebra book again, probably. But it's not true that it is true, actually, that exams are never over, even though you're not opening an algebra book anymore. And so, why are we talking about all of this? Because if you think about the frame through which you experience problems, and you have always experienced problems, you might ask yourself, how was I able to deal with problems? How did I do? Who gave me lenses through which I now see the world when it presents problems to me? And the answer is, of course, usually the parents and the people that surrounded you. And the people that surrounded mom were actually very practical people, both mom and dad. And like, okay, like, we need to solve this. Like, you need to have a solution. Solution is, if your way of thinking is like that, you're not going to be able to dwell into problems, and you're just going to need to find a solution. And by any time there means that in your life you would have a situation in which you are not able, literally, to solve the problems yourself because they're not in your control, you're going to freak out. Which is probably the thing that happened to mom quite a lot of times. But this is not the topic of the podcast. You were taught that somehow problems end at some point. In fact, this is not true. This is not true simply because you're gonna find yourself solving a problem and then being able to deal with bigger problems. Guess what? Esame di maturità is called maturity exam because afterwards it's gonna put you like a limit of when problems actually fucking matter. No matter if it's an university exam, you're gonna pay to study at university, so yeah, like, it's gonna matter a little bit more. And it doesn't matter if it's a work problem. You might find yourself a way to sustain yourself. And hopefully by 18 or 19, like, you already have some freaking idea that you need to do it. And so the thing is, the frame through which most of us were taught about dealing with problems, it's actually flawed because it supposes that once you solve a problem, everything is going to be fixed and you're going to be happy. And therefore it gives us the frame through which happiness is in the solution of problems, which is not. It's probably actually in the way of dealing with them. And so if you're, for example, living through a very difficult moment at this point in time, you're going to find yourself in a situation in which you are going to remember that time and remember maybe saying, oh my God, I was so stupid, didn't see the solution, or oh my God, like, it wasn't in control, like, why did I stress out so much, or anything else. But you will see it from a detached standpoint that you don't have right now, or you didn't have before. And so if we were to teach kids that, and I don't mean to razz on anyone, like, it's totally normal, like, it's a typical way of seeing things, because if we give ourselves an objective, it's much easier to understand that somehow this thing will be over, And yes, I am a very big proponent of the fact that somehow this thing will be over at some point, but something else is gonna start. And so if you look at it from this specific lens, you're gonna find yourself that your goal is actually aiming to have bigger problems. Because if you have bigger problems, it means that somehow you were equipped to be able to solve them. Now we're talking about lawful stuff and whatever, so nothing that relates to unlawful conduct or criminal stuff, of course. Just in the matter of good sense and in general business and life. So if you were like mom, like a person who was taught to be able to be needing to solve problems in a rational way, which is usually a good piece of advice, right? First off, well, it's okay if you're emotional. Like, it doesn't really change the outcome or the interpretation of things. Well, maybe the interpretation it changes, but it doesn't really change the nature of the things themselves. But always remember that what you see is an imitation of life and nature of the world, and how you interpret is the interpretation of the interpretation. Probably, but now, and that's, if you keep having the same problems, what if you keep having the same problems? Well, it means you're not growing. It means you don't have space to grow. It means you don't have time to grow. It's a problem, and it's probably the biggest problems, that you need to be solving. And so we probably need to reframe problems as current problems, as tiny versions of future bigger problems that we might not want to, long for, but at the same time, they are gonna be an indication of the fact that we're growing, of the fact that we're building something different and better for ourselves. Now, hopefully this gave you a little bit of a different interpretation, not meaning to rise on anyone who has different ways of approaching problems, practical problems, rational problems. Actually, I think that for mom was quite good to have this way of framing problems and getting to solve problems, and it's actually a typical trait of entrepreneurs. But at the same point, and at the same token, it's not probably the only way we can think about things. So yeah, mom is losing her voice, so we wait for your commentaries on this very important episode, and we're almost done with our specific pet project of the first 100 episodes, and we'll keep you updated on that. And for now, we'll send you lots of kisses, hugs, and a bit of bucks.